Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Game day edition of Believe in Saints. I'm David Grubb. He's Terrence Copper. And TC, man, before we get into this, it's a two and four teams on a Thursday night. Short week for both teams. Both teams coming off of losses. Both teams beat up in a lot of ways and struggling. Is this in week 7 a must win for the New Orleans Saints?
This is a must win. It's a must win because you don't want to go down 2-5. That is a tough hole to climb out of, especially if you're trying to get a winning record to actually get into the playoffs. I don't know what that number before they moved to 17 games. Usually the number you was trying to get to is 10. We always said 10 and we in. 10, you get 10 wins, win the playoffs. That was the number we used to chase when we was playing 16 games. Now we're playing 17 games. I'm not quite sure what that number is to get in the playoffs, but I know you don't want to start out 2-5, regardless what that number is, because that is a hole to try to get out of. So to me, this is a must-win game. I feel like if we win this game, we move to 3-4, and sky's the limit. You're still in the hunt. You're still in it, but going down 2-5, man, that's gonna be tough.
You can't keep giving away games in a division that you're still right on the heels of. Those losses, again, conference losses, that's been a big thing. Obviously, the Saints have their losses are in the division and they're in the NFC. And you're doubling up on the worst kind. I mean, the Bengals loss is the only one that's outside of the conference and outside of the division. But you have so many of these that kill all your tiebreaker hopes. So, like you said, even if they get to 9 and they're 9-8 or they're 10-7, they find some way to get there. If you're stuck, tied with another team, the Saints are in bad shape right now if they keep losing these NFC games.
Definitely, man. Like, we just got to find a way. Now, here on out, I mean, it's never been that way, but you just got to find a way to win. It don't really matter how you win. Like, just win. Just figure it out. Try to find a way to win. If it's by 1 point, it don't even matter. Right now, we're just trying to get out of this hole and string some wins together.
This is a really strange place for the Saints to be in because for a lot of these players, if you've been around the organization for a few years, you've never experienced this. And it's not just the losing, because like you said, you've been around a team when it got off to some slow starts before and y'all were able to turn it around. But the feeling around the Saints is a little bit different. There's like, if you've looked on social media, you see it, and there's Saints fans who are kind of like, they could lose my number right now. What's going on with the Pelicans? Let me check out Tulane right now. They're 5-1. They're a winner. The Saints are used to be in a position right now of having the entire state's attention, of them being the focus and people expecting big things from them. Right now, they're on the back burner in some ways. They're still the Saints. The way they go still affects the mood of the city. Yep. But there's also this feeling of disappointment in the fan base. And I know they support the team, but it's just the feeling is a little different.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, you're fans. Everybody's fans. If you're a fan of the program, you're going to be upset. You're going to be disencouraged. That's going to happen. But I'm telling you, the way to get everybody back on the bandwagon, not saying anybody is off the bandwagon, but their attention is not there anymore the way it should be. We just got to win. Win solves everything when it comes to sports. Just win, and I promise you, everybody will be back on the bandwagon. Everybody be tuning in because now we got some momentum going. But right now, I mean, we're not really making any noise right now. Basketball season starting up. Like you said, Tulane is winning. Tulane actually a pretty good team. They beat East Carolina a couple of weeks ago down in New Orleans. So they're a good team. So, like I said, everybody wants to be around winners. And right now, the Saints aren't winning right now. Not saying they aren't winners, but they aren't winning now. And so that's what the fan base's head is at.
For the players, it has to be frustrating because it's every week. It seems like it's little things. They're not things that you don't feel like you're getting out schemed by people.
Mm-hmm.
But you're getting beat in the little areas, the mental part of the game. You're getting beaten in taking care of the simple physical tasks like tackling, the fundamentals of tackling, of penalties, those types of things, week in, week out. That has to be the most frustrating part, knowing that you're right there every week, even at that 2-4, you've been right there. How frustrating is it? It's one thing to get beat. Like you said, you've been on the other end of it. Hey, we just weren't the better team today. But in all
Mm-hmm.
of these losses, there's not a single game where the Saints can look across the field and say, that team is clearly better than us.
And you know what? The crazy thing about that is the fact that the Saints can say that it's been because of the Saints, it's because of themselves. They're not winning. It gives them hope. It continues to give them hope because if you're playing games and week in, week out, teams are just better than you are, and you're playing your best ball and you still getting beat, that can be discouraging because then that's in your head. You're like, you know what? Maybe we're just not as good as these teams we're playing. And you start getting discouraged and you start thinking that maybe we don't have a good team. But when you're constantly losing the way you're losing, self-inflicted wounds, you're looking at that in a different light. You're looking at like, well, dang, we just got to stop doing this and we're going to be fine. We can beat all these teams. So what it does, even though you don't like it, but it continues to give them confidence that they are a good team. They just got to stop beating themselves compared to if they weren't beating themselves and they just getting beat every weekend, then those other problems.
The big thing, as it's been for the Saints throughout the entire season, is the number of injuries. They got some good news in that Chris Olave will be available tonight, but Michael Thomas again out, Jarvis Landry again out, Andrews Pete out, Adam Troutman out, Marshawn Lattimore out, and you got Paulson Adebo, Calvin Throckmorton, and Peyton Turner all listed as questionable. Um, you know, certainly they need to be able to pass the ball, especially against the Cardinals, who are a top 10 run defense, and have not really, been challenged or have given up a bunch of yards in the air. The Saints are without their top two receivers again. It's going to be important, I guess. And Taysom Hill could be limited because he took some hits last week. He's
Mm-hmm.
on the injury report, but not really. What do the Saints do offensively to kind of attack this Arizona defense, again, being shorthanded?
I think you got to get creative. You got to get creative with Hill, with Kamara. Uh, even last week with I forgot his name that came off the practice squad and scored a touchdown on the jet sweep.
Shaheed.
What was it?
Mm-hmm.
Shaheed, like different things like that. Getting creative with play calls, uh, little bubble routes. Even if you can't run the ball traditionally, running the ball, turn around, hand it off. You can get creative with jet sweeps like we did last week, throwing little bubble screens, running screen plays. So there's more ways to affect the run game without really throwing the ball down the field that you can still get that run feel to it. So we got to get creative because this team is a good team. They're a balanced team. They can throw it and they can run it. Now they haven't been starting out fast. I want to say they only scored 3 points, in the
Against a
last
very bad Seattle defense.
exactly, but they haven't scored more than that in the first quarter of a whole season. So we have an opportunity to jump out on this team early. And they do a great job on third downs, but they are getting behind the chains. They're getting behind early in games because they don't start fast. The same issue we had early in the season, but now I think we kind of turned that around a little bit now. So if we can jump out on this team early at the beginning, and just keep that wave going, I think we'll be fine.
The Cardinals strike me as a team because they're the questions around Cliff Kingsbury now. You've already seen that he's kind of on a hot seat. His relationship with Kyler Murray is in question. People are questioning the value of Kyler Murray's contract, even, in that area now. Even with them getting DeAndre Hopkins back, he hasn't played all year, so he's not going to be in 100% game shape. You get Robbie Anderson, who the Saints know from playing against him in Carolina. But it seems to be, while the Saints have had their problems and they've got injuries, they haven't broken as a team. But it feels like with this Arizona team, like you said, if you get up on them early and you put that pressure on, there's enough division here. There's enough problem internally here. And you know how it is, that you can push a team on the brink and they'll crack, and they may not show it, externally, but the way that they play starts to go down because they feel, here we go again. Whatever we're doing isn't working. We can't trust this guy. I can't trust the guy next to me or whatever. And people start to become selfish as players. I think you can break this team, like you said, if the Saints come out and are disciplined and effective early.
Oh yeah, like hopefully you can break them. At the end of the day, they're all still NFL players. They're still pros. But like you said, you can tell that they are kind of coming loose within the seams. You can kind of tell that there's the relationship between quarterback and head coach is not really intact the way it should be. You can kind of look at play calling as well. Their play calling has really not been that great, with Kingsbury under the helm this year right here. Now, of course, they're missing one of their best receivers, Hopkins. At the end of the day, the way they're playing, I would be more apt to kind of look at their sidelines during the game just to see how they're interacting with each other when things are going bad. Are they going to gel together and like, listen, let's get this thing going? Or are they going to be on the sideline pointing fingers and bickering at each other? Now, when I say that, don't get me wrong, every team in the NFL, you can be on the sidelines and it's going to be some fussing, it's going to be some cussing when things ain't going right. But in their situation, it's kind of double because they already not on one accord throughout the whole team. So it could get bad for them when they're on the sideline arguing and fussing instead of coming together after the arguing and fussing and making sure we get it on the right track, get on the right track. So for them, it really could mess up.
Because there's that teammate arguing, come on, man, you better than this. Let's get this going. What are we doing? That kind of arguing. And then there's the, what are you doing?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that. You messing this up.
Yeah.
And it becomes that finger pointing type thing. And like you said, yeah, after that first 3 and out, is it, here we go, 3 and out? Or is it, all right, 3 and out, let's next time. We're going to have to get this together next time. And I think you're right. You got to watch those things. And I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury, who that question has been with him since he got that job, because people were like, does he deserve this job in the first place? He wasn't a greatly successful college coach. And like you said, that's the thing that's the most surprising about the Cardinals is that it feels like their offense is really bland when you've been given this gift of Kyler Murray, a multidimensional quarterback, and who seemed like he was on the rise over the last 2 seasons. And now it shouldn't. We've seen great quarterbacks or very good young quarterbacks play without their best weapons but still be effective. But Kyler Murray looks like he's out there by himself sometimes.
Yeah, and you know what the crazy thing about it is? You kind of could see all this, how it's transpiring now. You could see it during the offseason. Even when they try to make him sign a contract where he got to do extra studying. That type of stuff, you shouldn't have to put that in a player contract, especially a quarterback's contract. You know what I'm saying? The only way you're going to be successful in that league is if you watch film. So I feel like for him, that's disrespectful for the organization to even ask me to do that. Like I haven't made plays. Like I'm not a good quarterback in the NFL. Like I said, the only time that you're going to be a good quarterback, you have to watch film. There is no way around it. I mean, you can tell guys that don't watch film, but for the majority of it, every quarterback in the NFL is going to watch a ton of film. Now, if they go out there and execute or not, I mean, who knows? But they're going to watch film. So you kind of can see this writing on the wall of how things are going with the relationship, even during the off season. So I'm not surprised that they're here right now, but I do want to see what happens when D-Hop comes back and see if he can come back and rolling.
I think that's going to be, obviously that's the matchup for the Saints defensively, because wide receivers, especially number 1 receivers, have done very well against them this year. The other part of that is that mobile quarterbacks historically have done well against this defense. So without Marshawn Lattimore and maybe without Paulson Adebo as well, the secondary has a lot of heavy lifting to do tonight against Robbie Anderson, who is a talented player, and of course, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes, they do. And the good thing about it is D-Hop is just getting back. So I don't think he's going to be the same D-Hop. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel like he'll get back to form, but it's going to take him a couple of weeks or a few weeks to get back to form. But I don't think his first game back, with him being out as long as he has, that he's going to come back and kill it unless we allow him to do it. And we have been allowing other receivers to come out here and kill us because we're not doing a great job of tackling after the catch. So that's where my question is for our defensive backs. Can we get him down or get any of their receivers down once the ball is caught, or not even allowing them to catch the ball to get some pass breakups? So that's where I'm at with the defensive back. And like I said, we're down in our secondary, so it's going to be very interesting of how we play our coverages. Are we going to run a lot of man-to-man this game, or are we going to go some more zone, more heavy zone, especially when you got a guy like Kyler Murray that is running with the ball. He's not just back there throwing it. He's actually running and getting yards. One game he had 100 yards rushing, as a quarterback. That's small.
And we saw that play he made against the Raiders, of course.
Right. Right. So, so it's like, what do you do in the secondary? Are you going to go heavy man-to-man, or you going to play more zone? So that's what I'll be looking to see.
And it's good. The other part is it's huge for the defensive line to be disciplined because this is a team in the Cardinals, again, that's missing 2 starters on its offensive line. They've given up a lot of sacks. But again, if you're not disciplined against a quarterback like Kyler Murray, and we saw it even against Joe Burrow last week when he scored on a broken play and runs it in for a touchdown. When you're not disciplined against mobile quarterbacks, they're able to do damage. Even the play that Joe Burrow didn't score a touchdown where he threw that pass up the middle, against pressure. That it's going to be big on the defensive line, both to create pressure and stay disciplined in their lane assignments.
And I think they can do that, especially when you said the lane assignments. That's huge. I think we talked about it before. When you're playing a mobile quarterback, the ideal place for your interior D-line to be is 3 yards up the field. If they can get a 3-yard push, that'll be perfect. That'll put their opposite guards and center in the lap of the quarterback. And if your D ends, your outside rushers, if they can't, they just got to make sure they don't go behind Kyler Murray. Because once you go behind him, you open up running lanes. So they have to make sure they stay even on the same level with him and attack him that way. So if you're getting the 3-yard push from the inside, the outside guards are coming in and they're collapsing. And now you keep him bottled up in that pocket and he's already short. So that's where we got to be. So you hit it right on the head talking about when it comes to rushing lanes.
On the offensive side of the ball, they haven't decided whether or not it's going to be Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton tonight. Who do you think that the Saints should go with, and who do you think they will go with?
Oh, I'm going back with Dalton. Because he hasn't been playing bad. I don't think Dalton has been playing bad. I think Winston, I'm not saying that there's a quarterback controversy. Not at all. But I'm going to give Dalton one more game, especially on a short week. I'm going to give Dalton one more game. And then after that, like I said, Winston, if he's ready to roll, okay, now let's finish our season out with Winston because he's healthy. But after a short week, I'm going back with Dalton after a short week.
It feels like, we look at Thursday night games. They are typically very low scoring this season. They've been some of the most low scoring since they've had Thursday night games this year in particular. These are 2 banged up teams. The Cardinals have struggled offensively. The Saints have put up more points as of the last couple of weeks, but the Cardinals are a better defense than they faced the last couple of weeks. This, to me, again, feels like one of those games that's going to be in the high teens, low 20s. But I feel like if the Saints are going to win a game, they got to win this one.
Yep.
So I'm going to have this. I'll say it's 2013, 2016 Saints.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to go with 14-17 Saints. 14-17 Saints. I'm going that way with them.
Who do you think, somebody's going to have to emerge and make some big plays. I think it has to be Alvin Kamara. This is the game where he has to score a touchdown. He has to reach the end zone this game because I think red zone management, Saints have been very good between the 20s. But, 1 for 5 last week. Red zone efficiency is the thing this week that's going to be the difference. I think Alvin Kamara has his game where either it's out of the backfield as a receiver or through the running game. I think this is where he finally breaks through and gets into the end zone.
He definitely has to do that. Not just him. Taysom Hill has to come and be Taysom Hill again. And at the end of the day, Taysom Hill has to do that every weekend. Every time they play, it is what it is. This is where we're at offensively. Taysom Hill has to come to play, and he has to do what Taysom Hill does every weekend. Kamara has to get on board as well. He has to make some plays. I just don't see us airing it out because of our receiving core. Don't get me wrong, we have some good backups at receiver. Don't get me wrong, we have some good backups at receiver, but I don't think we have enough firepower to just air it out every single play. We got to establish the run game. Even with Ingram in there as well, he had some good runs last week also. So we have to establish the run game first and then open it up with the pass game. And there's different things you can do with that as well.
Yeah, with the holes in the line too. The guys banged up on the line. It's just easier, again, to shorten the game by utilizing that run game and allowing those linemen to be physical rather than having them in retreat situations against a Cardinals team that has a good pass rush. The Cardinals do have a good pass rush. So yeah, for Andy, to me, it's like 25 attempts. You want to see him be more accurate than he was last week because he was right around 50% last week. A little more accuracy, but that comes from utilizing your running back. That comes from utilizing Taysom in those short, and hopefully you can get it to your other type. Jawan Johnson, I think, could be an X factor in this game as well. He's a guy who's certainly playing that kind of flex role as a hybrid wide receiver tight end. Could have a big game tonight as well. I think he could have that one big catch down the seam. I think he's primed for that kind of play.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like they have some weapons, but they still don't have our top receiver. We still don't have Landry. We still don't have Thomas. And when you don't have those guys, those are our main guys. And hopefully, like Olave, he's back and he'll be able to play. But that is the weapon that we need. We need more weapons out there at receiver position. You know what I think I want to see? I want to see us run more draw plays.
Yeah.
With Kamara, I want to see more draw, especially you have a team that have a D-line that can get after the quarterback. Okay, let's use their aggression against them. Let them get up the field, and let's just hand it off to Kamara and run right up under them. So not saying you're going to run that all the time, but that is a good third down play when they're expecting pass. Those D linemen are rushing up the field. Let's run some draw plays.
I think they're going to have to be more creative, like you said. And it's not about trick plays. It's not about those things, like you said. It's just how do you get the ball into your playmakers' hands really quickly, because you don't want Andy back there trying to get to 3-4 seconds of reads. You want that ball out of his hands very fast and get it to the guys who can do something. And that'll be Shaheed. Like you said, it'll be Taysom Hill. It'll be Kamara. It'll be Ingram. I don't care if half the passes get caught behind the line of scrimmage. If you're using that as the running game, do it. Whatever you got to do, keep moving that ball forward. If it's 11 play drives, if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. But
that's what it takes. And I'm anxious to see what they're gonna do with Shaheed this week. I'm quite sure they done dialed some up just for him, plays for him, because you can't come off the bench like he did and score a big touchdown like that and show how fast you are, show that speed and your elusiveness, and not come back the next week and have a play ran for you. He may have one or two plays that they put him in just for the quarterback to look his way.
I think it'll be interesting if you have him and Taysom on the field at the same time and make defenses choose, because now you don't know how they're going to utilize it. Like you said, just the appearance of people and the formations you use create deception. So, but like you said, it's a huge game, particularly for Dennis Allen too, because to kind of reestablish the program and say, this is, we can still do something here, hold on to this locker room and not lose guys, because it's getting to that time of year where you start looking at the standings and figuring out, you do the math on your own fingers, how many wins we got to get. Yeah, nice one they got to get.
It is. They have to. No doubt about it. I agree with you on that.
Big Dog, any final words before we get up out of here?
Nah, just go Saints, man. Who that? That's it.
Hey, the Pelicans gave the city a win last night. The Saints need to follow it up tonight. Let's go into a strong weekend and, like I said, get that long week and get some rest. And hopefully next week this team is healthy and ready to start putting something together, and it begins tonight, hopefully with a good win on the road against the Cardinals.
I agree with you.
Until the next time, we'll be back next week to recap this Cardinals game. I'm David Grubb. He's Terrence Copper. This is Believe in Saints, brought to you by Bet Online. Y'all be good, and who dat?